The ugly side of the music industry is that business will always be a controlling factor in the dynamics of a group of artists. Creative differences, profit split issues, management concerns, egos, and superstars outshining other members will always be prevalent within a group of entertainers. Unfortunately, these factors played a key role in the history of the greatest rap group ever, the Wu-Tang Clan. From the streets of Shaolin, a group of 8 lyrical swordsmen became hip-hop's hottest group in the mid-1990s. This was an all-star group of MCs from Staten Island and Brooklyn joining forces to become a hip-hop supergroup. There's no tighter-knit family in hip-hop than the Wu-Tang Clan, exemplified by the group still being together nearly 30 years after their debut album hit the shelves. Despite drama, lawsuits between members, public disagreements, and disappearing acts from obligations to the Wu, the group is still close enough to this day that they can come together and not let their past issues ruin their brotherhood. While watching Showtime's excellent documentary titled Of Mics and Men on YouTube, I noticed how the group's issues throughout the years could be traced back to the business side of the music industry. I think it will be fun for us to learn about the music business through the history of the Wu-Tang Clan and why the business side at times tore the group apart. One unfortunate reality of the music business is that labels can and will drop artists if they don't sell or if they don't believe in the artist. The Genius dropped his debut album while signed to Cold Chillin' Records, and Prince Rakeem dropped his debut album while signed to Tommy Boy Records. Both were dropped from their labels after those releases. The Genius, Prince Rakeem, and their cousin Russell Jones decided to start their own group and took on the names GZA, RZA, and ODB respectively. Given their poor experience dealing with a label, GZA and RZA were ready to form their own sound and create their own path in the music industry. RZA was the mastermind of this new group that would become the Wu-Tang Clan. Grabbing the best lyricists from the Stapleton Houses and Park Hill projects in Staten Island helped form the Brotherhood from the start. They were family because they grew up together. Creating a record just meant putting their rap battles on an official track. How were they able to fund the creation of the first album? They were given investment money from RZA's brother Mitchell, Divine Diggs, and his business partner Oliver Power Grant to help kickstart the group. In the documentary, we are told that it's street money. The music business is a business, and almost all businesses need some form of money to start producing, marketing, and selling the product. Like any business, those who infuse the company with startup capital are going to get favorable terms because they're taking on the most risk of anyone. The odds of these MCs from the projects becoming a profitable international hip-hop group is slim to none. Think about a scenario where you invest $50,000 into a local musician. Even though you never play an instrument, write a lyric, or sing a tune, if that artist makes it because of your investment money, then you're gonna want some profit. This is why you'll see names like Divine and Power of the Wu-Tang Clan get executive producer credits on an album that they never appeared on. Wu-Tang Productions Inc. was incorporated in the state of New York on August 4th, 1992 with Robert F. Diggs, aka RZA, as the managing agent. RZA was always one step ahead. He knew he had something special brewing with this group of MCs. RZA turns to an associate of the Wu-Tang, Mathematics, for help designing the logo. RZA pays Mathematics $400 for the logo, which was half of his rent at the time. Just imagine if Mathematics would have asked for 1% of all net income generated from use of his logo. The group has money, they have a logo for branding, they have their 8 original artists established, and RZA recruits his cousin John Mook Gibbons to become manager of the group. They're ready to record and open the world up to the skills of 8 MCs from Shaolin. What is this? A sample from a kung fu movie and a group of rappers from Shaolin? Protect Your Neck was the group's first single and let the world know in 5 minutes that these young rappers from Staten Island were the next big thing in music. While the group was working on recording other songs for their debut album, Mook went around marketing this single to anyone willing to listen. Through his creative guerrilla marketing techniques to generate underground buzz, Mook was able to get the song heard on the radio. Protect Your Neck features the 8 original Wu-Tang Clan members, but the 3 men behind the scenes were just as important to the group's beginning success: Divine and Power for the startup capital and Mook's ability to generate buzz and get the record played. Steve Rifkind of Loud Records took notice and made the smart decision to sign the Wu-Tang Clan to a record deal. The music industry is shady and full of stories where artists get taken advantage of, but labels still need to take a large financial risk that rarely pays off. The Wu-Tang Clan had 1 single, 8 artists, and didn't exactly make radio-friendly music. I don't have access to the original recording contract, but I imagine RZA received a larger share of royalties for his production on every song. My guess is the 8 members combined to earn $15 to 20% royalties. RZA has claimed that all of the artists receive an equal share of the royalties because they are a family, but there were many disputes between a group member and RZA, leading me to believe he kept his production credits. Within 2 years, Enter the Wu-Tang, 36 Chambers had gone platinum, selling over 1 million copies. The reason why artists don't earn as much as you think is that 1 million copies sold means $10 million in revenue for the label. 15% royalties to the group would be $1.5 million. That gets split 11 ways. Assuming an uneven split, since the original investors would want a larger share and deductions for recording costs and marketing, each artist probably made around $50,000 total over 2 years, or $25,000 per year from royalties. The Wu-Tang Clan is one of the highest selling groups of all time and was able to tour the world for years, so I hope that none of the artists are struggling financially in 2021, but you can quickly see how much a group needs to sell or how much they need to make on tour in order to have an income that pays the bills. If the Wu-Tang Clan started today in an era where selling 10,000 albums the first week is the norm, they would really struggle to make ends meet. With the album experiencing some mainstream success, it was time for each individual artist to have their own solo career. RZA incorporated Wu-Tang Records on March 9th, 1995, establishing the company that will own all recordings for the Wu-Tang Clan. What RZA did differently was allow each individual member a chance to sign a solo recording deal with different labels. This allowed each member to pursue their solo career separate from the group and separate from Loud Records. This also leads to obvious issues. Who gets to release first and enjoy the buzz generated from the Enter the Wu-Tang album? Also, RZA was the main producer on the first few albums released by Wu-Tang members, so it wasn't possible for every member to release a solo project right after the success of Enter the Wu-Tang. You God and Inspectah Deck's first albums were both released in 1999, 6 years after the first Wu album. The year is 1997. By now, Enter the Wu-Tang is certified platinum, selling over 1 million copies. Raekwon, GZA, Ghostface Killah, and ODB have certified gold albums, and Method Man has a certified platinum album. RZA is able to recruit the crew back together again to record the Wu-Tang Forever album. The album opened number 2 on the Billboard 200 chart, selling over 600,000 copies in the first week. The group was now a bona fide supergroup. Over the next 2 years, Raekwon released another gold album, Method Man another platinum album, Inspectah Deck and You God released their first solo albums to critical acclaim, and Capadonna went gold. Power started Wu-Wear years earlier, but was now seeing gross sales hit multiple 8 figures per year. He also helped produce the Wu-Tang Shaolin style video game. The brand was everywhere mainstream, and the group even earned a tour with Rage Against the Machine, who was one of the largest rock bands touring at the time. The Wu-Tang Clan at this time was optimizing their brand recognition in every way possible. It's well known that artists now will struggle to make money if they're relying on album sales or streams only. The Wu-Tang Clan provided a pretty good blueprint for someone wanting to monetize the brand in many ways outside of the music. This also marked the peak of the Wu-Tang Clan. By now, multiple members were international stars on their own. Method Man was speaking negatively about Wu-Wear and didn't know there was a Wu-Tang video game until asked in an interview about it. A couple artists were disgruntled that their solo projects dropped years after others. RZA had discontinued producing every track on Wu-Tang members' solo albums while pursuing his own solo career. ODB was facing personal demons and legal problems. Back to the summer of '97 and the tour with Rage Against the Machine. The peak of the invincibility of the group happened as the crew left the Rage tour to fulfill an obligation to perform at the Hot 97 Summer Jam concert. Hot 97 told the crew that they would no longer play their music on the radio if they didn't perform. The crew was forced to pay for their travel and accommodations to get back to New Jersey for the concert and wasn't paid for playing. Ghostface Killah went on stage and got the crowd to chant out F Hot 97, which resulted in the crew being kicked off stage and the radio station not playing their music for over a decade. Some crew members didn't want to return to the Rage tour. From the label's perspective, this would be the headaches of dealing with artists. They were given a great opportunity to promote their brand and make life-changing money on tour with Rage, and to ensure that they maintain a good relationship with Hot 97. But that's how the game is played. They ruined their relationship with Hot 97 and a chance of getting on the radio for promotion for over a decade. The group started to splinter around this time. Despite the complications the group was facing, they were able to release The W, their third album, which sold 300,000 copies in the first week, debuting at number 5 on the Billboard 200 chart in November 2000. Notably missing was ODB, who was only able to provide audio for one song that was sent via a prison telephone due to his incarceration. Just a couple years later, and following following the release of their fourth album, the Wu-Tang Clan was facing a lot of internal struggle from artists becoming successful solo acts and not wanting to put their best effort into the Wu-Tang Clan albums. By this time, many of the artists had asked RZA to leave their recording deal with Wu-Tang. In the Of Mics and Men documentary, Divine said that all of the artists leaving their contract with Wu meant he was losing out on $10 million every single year. RZA wanted what was best for each artist and allowed it. I think a desire for an artist to become their own brand is inevitable in the music business, but it means splintering the group collective that existed for so long. Also in the documentary is an argument between Ghostface Killah, Raekwon, and Divine about management fees and money. Once artists see how many albums are getting sold, they see their merchandise all across the globe, and they see packed stadiums chanting their name, they're going to wonder where all of the money went. The label is always going to earn multiples more than artists, and Divine was always going to earn his fair share for being the initial investor and being the businessman behind the scenes. He was always going to earn a larger share than the artists. This uneven split of the money will inevitably lead to resentment in a group, and it happened with the Wu. ODB was released from prison and signed to Rockefeller Records, even though his cousins RZA and Divine helped make him into the artist he became. They had to sign on the dotted line to allow Dame Dash and The Rock to take control of his career. You can see it in RZA that he was destroyed by this. When ODB was released from jail, he had no money and needed money to pay for child support. He gladly accepted Rockefeller's advance to start recording under their label. It was pretty clear in the documentary that at this point the group was fractured to the point of no return. U-God left the group over feelings that the group favored other artists over himself. He eventually sued RZA over unpaid royalties. Ghostface Killah also sued RZA for unpaid royalties. 8 Diagrams, the group's 5th album, debuted at number 25 on the charts while selling only 68,000 copies in the first week, a far cry from the previous releases. Raekwon and Ghostface Killah were critical of the sound of the album, even trashing the album in public interviews. The album received fairly positive reviews, but it was clear that the group wasn't as tight-knit as they were in the beginning. Public arguments, lower album sales, and members suing and criticizing each other was a sign that the group was heading for the end. If you spend time analyzing the news stories of the Wu-Tang Clan and watching documentaries, it becomes clear that a lot of the disgruntled nature of the artists as time went on was due to many aspects of the music business. Divine, the businessman behind the operation, no longer speaks with the members, his brothers. The guys he grew up with and helped get out of the hood are no longer on speaking terms with him. RZA told his brother Divine to leave the group after there was a disagreement about him taking his management cut. RZA deserves a lot of credit for managing the crew the way he was able to. He produced entire albums one after the other to ensure the collective shared a similar sound for years. I think there will always be some resentment within the group towards RZA because he was always going to earn significantly more money than everyone else. He had producer credits on every song that each artist put out for years. He had producer credits on every Wu album. He also had writer credits, and he owned the company. He was the label. The major takeaway from the documentary that I had was that Divine was on a boat in Marina del Rey, California, talking about buying real estate in New York when the Wu-Tang Clan was receiving checks, and now those properties have gone up in value. Divine always had an investor's mind, which is why he invested his money and didn't spend it on conspicuous consumption. Once Upon a Time in Shaolin, the single copy album RZA produced with Silver Rings in 2015, helped bring to light the fractures in the group. You could hear it in the Wu-Tang members' voices when they speak about the album. Even through the trials and tribulations that the business side threw at the group, they have stuck together enough to continue touring nearly 30 years after their debut album was released. To me, there always feels like an element of what if with the group. I think they have the talent to become the biggest group in music. Thanks so much for watching.